And so in that regard, I created this history repeats itself part of the document to encourage my team that our industry has overcome massive changes, massive attacks, unbelievable disruption many, 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 many times. And I am not a historian. So the truth is, I'm sure my document is highly limited in its scope, but it goes back to the 1800s. And we talk about the advent of actual organized brokerage and the unbelievable amount of crazy criminal activity that happened there, exclusivity in brokerage, buyer agency, technology. By the way, just think about this one scenario, Chris. Okay, you're an agent in the 80s and you've had hundreds of clients over 20 years, whatever. Not one of your clients has ever known which houses are for sale without talking to you, unless they drove by a house and saw a sign in the front. They literally didn't know where the houses are that are for sale unless they came to you. And then the next day, it was all over the internet. Can you imagine surviving that kind of shift where you were like, now you would have been wrong to think, but you might have been acting on the assumption that your value is you had info that they didn't have. You knew where the properties were and they didn't. Now that's actually part of our buyer initial consultation is that never should have been the unique value of a client. It should have been leadership, advocacy, negotiation, access, all these things. But for a long time, that was a massive value advantage that an agent had. I know where the houses are, and there is no other way to find out without having an agent because it's in a printed book or a dot matrix printout or a database that only we have access to. And then all of a sudden, it's on 1,000 websites, or at the time, probably more like 80 websites. But the fact is, can you imagine anything more disruptive than that? Even the advent of buyer agency probably wasn't quite that shocking to the system. Now, I give you a history of countless things that we've overcome. 2001, 9/11, 2008, stock market volatility, interest rate volatility, the savings and loan bust of the late 80s, oil and gas fluctuations, political war. I mean, our industry has weathered much bigger storms than this one. But right now, this feels like an atom bomb to a lot of people.
Absolutely. So, I mean, once again, if you didn't catch it earlier and you're just tuning in now or you skipped to this thing, like this thing is available for download down in the description, and I'll say like, producer Sean actually, I don't need an excuse to talk to you, Todd. We always have a great time. But producer Sean like brought this thing to me. He's like, hey, have you seen this part of it? Like the timeline? He's like, there's some great stuff in there. You really need to read this. And so, yeah, that really piqued our interest.
Like I said, I wrote it for my team, but I think because of that, you'd be crazy not to go devour this thing. It's free. I mean, go for it. You don't have to like all the sections the same. Obviously, I think this was Sean's favorite part. But the point I'm making is this should encourage you. The point is to go, wow, our industry has made it through all kinds of crazy stuff before NAR was even a thing. And I document in there what NAR was before it was NAR and all that. But the reality is you should be able to look at that and go, okay, it doesn't guarantee that I will be fine, but there will be a residential real estate industry beyond this. It will look different. All things are always changing and growing and learning and improving. And there are setbacks before growth and all those things. But if you're willing to put your head down and commit, and by the way, if you're watching this, I think you're probably highly likely to be okay. Doesn't guarantee you're going to go take action on it. But the fact that you're here and even attentive and wanting to probably puts you in the top 20% at least of people of odds of survival or thriving. But the point of that was not just to document the history. I then give you a little bit of interpretation. And I think in a lot of ways, that's the part that Sean reached out to me and was like, man, this is some of the best stuff I've seen out of you. And again, in our coaching group and on our team, we're talking for days and days and hours on this, but I've given you the most distilled summary I possibly can of what that history means for our future.
Okay. I want to do like a closing argument. In closing, and maybe I'll put this like caveat on it. Like, I feel like we've been a little bit like intense and almost like a little bit negative, but the title of this thing is still going to be like NAR locked in the highest, compensation value, like sort of explosively good news, so bring it home for us. Like, tell me again why this is good news.
Yeah. As I often do, let me give you one thing before I give you that thing. In this document, it is the exact text of the settlement from the legal document. A lot of people are doing a lot of things based on NAR's summary or their brokerage's summary or something they heard from someone else. I want you to know the exact wording of the exact settlement document. Again, not approved yet, but I've included highlighted sections, really almost the entire section that talks about the changes that we need to make. The rest of it is legal jargon. You should go find the whole thing. But I've given you the highlighted sections that I believe are most relevant. I've done that work for you and selected it, and I'm showing it to you so that you know what I'm actually responding to. And then I do give you really a mini article on how NAR just locked in higher compensation for higher value agents. Again, when I say higher value agent, I mean an agent that has more value to provide to the consumer, an agent that delivers more value to the consumer, not your average everyday, do the same, charge the same, look the same, act the same. This is for people that are really committed to being a world-class professional who has massive positive impact on their clients' lives. Now, that being said, imagine a few scenarios here where your potential seller or your potential buyer is much more willing to listen to A, how you're different, B, what you charge, why you charge it, what you do with that commission, that money, that revenue, that income, those resources, what your track record is of bringing buyers to sellers or sellers to buyers, of getting over the average price, under the average time. By the way, that's one of our primary marketing messages, of helping buyers get more value for their dollar, access to more properties. In the past, oftentimes you had to beg to get a prospect on the phone or in the office or on Zoom. More and more and more, there will be the expectation of that conversation. President Biden said last week or a couple of weeks back that for the first time ever, real estate agents have agreed to make their fees negotiable. Well, that is both wildly factually inaccurate and dumb. But the reason I share that right now is the fact that he said it is going to impact consumers. And he's not the only one saying it. CNN, NBC, The Daily, it's everywhere. The fact that it's wrong almost doesn't matter. It's priming our prospective client base, our audience, our lead pool, our market areas to ask these questions. Now, the way we got there is really annoying. The fact that we're there is going to be awesome. So now you have someone that's willing to listen. What do you do? How are you different? What do you charge? Why do you charge it? Now, they might also be saying, I'm not going to pay that. But I've been told that thousands of times. And most of those times, by the end of a quick conversation, because I was prepared with the communication of value, people have said, wow, I've never heard of that before. If you can do that, I would gladly pay this. You might not have to work on a contingency fee anymore. That's basically what most of us do. Percentage or fee at closing once results are delivered. You might get a retainer up front. A lot of other industries that provide a lot of services do. So there's this whole new world, this incredibly exciting new world of how do I get compensated? I set my value, my fees based on that, and the consumer's open to talking about it. Now imagine this other thing. I don't want to give you just that. Imagine this. You're right. You're right. All the scary stuff is true. 9 out of 10 agents are now willing to do it cheaper. So you get an opportunity to talk to the client and they're like, I've met with 5 agents. The other 4 were all willing to do it for beep, fill in the blank with something really low. And you're like, hey, totally understand. And it may be wise for you to go with one of them. Now, my value is so different from them. It used to be maybe felt like it's the same but slightly different fee, or I was a little bit better. Now, I'm so far and away different from them that even if my fee is also so far and away different than them, it's like, wow, maybe that's worth considering. Now, maybe a vast majority of people aren't going to consider you. Great. You don't need to work with all those people. If you can lead generate with a platform like Real Geeks or something else, or ads or network or whatever, well enough to talk to enough people that would consider that, they're going to see you even more differentiated than ever, way above the norm, way more valuable, and may strongly consider, in the majority, gladly hiring you, paying your fee, writing a review, telling their friends, and more great clients will attract more great clients, and great fees may lead to more great fees, higher net profitability, less grind, less frustration, less beatings, less clients that doubt your value. I'm not saying it will be perfect and easy. I'm saying there may be more opportunity. And then finally, I'll say this. I've been doing this for over 15 years. I already know all of this will work. I've done it through multiple market cycles, multiple disruptive innovation, billion-dollar tech investments, rules changes, legal changes, political changes, seasonal changes, weather changes, all these things. I'm telling you, I can't be positive because I've never lived through this, but I'm telling you, this has been totally doable without this. And I'm pretty good at paying attention to things like this. I think that if you're willing to add the value and communicate your value, you're about to have a heyday. This is what we've been coaching people on for 12 plus years. And Chris, you and I have talked about this. We have not built the world's largest coaching company because we don't want to sell what we do based on some sexy headline. Ours has been create value and communicate it. It's not 10x your profit, bro. It's not I did it one way, come learn my one way. It's you should build a business based on your unique value to support the life of value and income and impact that you want to live. I have never seen a bigger opportunity for our way of thinking than this market, and I'm trying to share as much of it with you as I can right now.